Do other people really make you sick? Welcome back to the podcast. I would love to unpack this topic with you, having had years of experience working with people with chronic illness and complex health conditions. Now, I'm going to use the common cold or flu as an example to make this easier to understand. However, this conversation is still relevant for you if you're on a healing journey and you're concerned about bigger external environmental factors that may feel out of your control. So you might be concerned about your water quality, air pollution, cigarette smoke in your home environment, and you may fear that it's making your health worse or it's inhibiting your healing journey. And this is also still relevant for you if you're on a cancer journey or having an autoimmune condition. It may be a little bit harder for you to hear, but please bear with me and I hope you take away something valuable from what I have to share. Now, when I hear people speak, I listen to their language and see the impact that it has on them. And so when it comes to being sick with a cold or flu, I will often hear people say, "Oh, I'm sick because my friend came over and they gave it to me." Or your child comes home from daycare or school and you say, "Oh, yeah, little Johnny got sent to daycare and they were unwell because the parents couldn't take time off to keep them at home. And so little Johnny gave this cold, this flu to my son or my daughter." So hopefully from that, you can already hear how the responsibility is handed over to someone else. It's very blame-oriented language. And so, what I share with people is that we are surrounded by pathogens, bacteria, and viruses all of the time. But why is it that some of us get sick and some of us don't? And why is it that we go through phases, periods of our life where you may be getting sick more often? Because that's where I once was, getting sick every couple of weeks and every couple of months. And over the last handful of years, I've only been sick a few times, and I know the reasons for why I got sick. So if we're surrounded by all of these pathogens, bacteria, and viruses all the time, why is it that we get sick? Well, we usually get sick because our immune system is compromised or it is weakened. But how does it get compromised or weakened? How do we become susceptible to these pathogens, viruses, and bacteria and get colds and flus? I usually say it's because we have stress. And there are three key forms of stress for me. There is physical stress, physiological, and emotional. So physical stress could be that you're working really hard, not getting enough sleep, burning yourself out. Maybe you're overtraining and not getting enough rest. Physiological could be you're taking a certain medication for a particular condition that may weaken or affect your internal state. It could be pregnancy. We could see this as a positive stress as long as you're someone who wants to actually be pregnant. That can also weaken your immune system. And of course, my favorite to work with is emotional stress. Experiences that you've had, events that you have moved through where maybe you haven't had space or time to fully process, discharge, and feel your emotions. So the body suppresses them and it stores them and it becomes a source of stress. And that may mean that you have the undesirable manifestation of a weakened immune system and you're constantly getting sick, run down with colds and flus. So the great thing is that if you can actually recognize if you have physical, physiological, emotional stress, or maybe a combination of two or three of these, all of a sudden the responsibility becomes yours. This could be a great thing, it could be more of a challenging thing. But when the responsibility is yours, no one else has to change around you. You get to change. You get to decide, how can I strengthen my immune system? And for me, one of the easiest routes is actually working with your emotions. Because when you work with your emotions, then you change your physiology and you also change your physical state. You're more motivated to make decisions that are actually going to lead to better health, better outcomes in all facets of your life. Now, my experience of this in the recent years to share a story to really help you connect with this is that I went from being sick every couple of weeks to every couple of months to not really getting sick at all for a period of years. And then I remember in 2021 that I got sick. And I really don't feel there was actually anyone around me to blame for getting sick. I don't recall that. But what it was when I held one of my first group programs, Release, which is still running today. When I ran the first ever cohort, there was a huge number of people in that group. And I admitted to them that I got sick. But what happened was I didn't have the capacity, or I didn't feel I had the capacity to hold that number of people. Now I did, but it came at a cost. And I ended up getting a cold, and it was my weak spot with how colds would usually present, which is usually a throaty thing and a little bit chesty. So I loved it because we were online and I was transparent, like, look, guys, I'm experiencing this. But thankfully, I love my work and I can show up no matter what. But being online, I didn't have to worry about passing it on to anyone else who might have these full emotional cups and therefore being susceptible to catching my cold, so to speak, because I wasn't going to give it to them. But for me, it was the experience of, whoa, this is a lot of people to hold. So it stretched me mentally, it stretched me emotionally. But for me, it wasn't a sign that I had made a wrong move by letting this many people into the group. And after that experience, if I hadn't have done all the emotional work that I had done, I probably would have just said, I'm never doing something like this again. But that is not my style. I also know that things get easier as you repeat. And so that's my experience of getting sick in 2021. No one was sick around me, so I couldn't actually blame them. And really, it was because of what was happening in my business, and there was a lot to hold. And if you run a business, you will understand what I mean. There are a lot of challenges and experiences to hold, and sometimes you've just got to stay into it, stay in it. You've got to commit to it. Now, another example is during the pandemic time and COVID. I know there was a lot of fear around, is someone going to give me COVID? Anyway, you all know the story. But when my husband was traveling with Violet, our daughter, to Nepal, he actually got sick with COVID. My daughter was all over him, sleeping in the tent with him, etc. She was only young and she did not get COVID. They actually got flown out by helicopter and he was in this little bubble because he was in the mountains and was recovering, I think, in Kathmandu hospital. So she didn't get sick, even though she was in such close proximity to him. And then when they returned, it was a few months later, Violet managed to get COVID. Maybe she wasn't sleeping so well. Maybe she wasn't eating the best. I'm not too sure from memory at that time. That there's something that weakened her immune system. Maybe she was going through a growth spurt. Now she got COVID, but I know that when your child gets sick, that they probably want more cuddles, that actually helps them heal. I wasn't going to say, you need to stay in your room and I'm going to serve you dinner. We just went along daily life as normal. I gave her lots of cuddles. I was there with her. I did not distance myself from her. But what I did to protect my immune system and make sure that I wasn't going to get sick is I doubled down on rest. So even if I didn't feel tired, I just slept because I also know that that is when our immune system is fighting all these pathogens, bacteria, and viruses when it's doing its work. And I didn't get sick. And then I don't know if it was months or a couple of years later, I think it was at the start of 2023. That was the next time I got sick. So it was 2021 and the start of 2023. And I got COVID. Now, there was a friend that had it who didn't know that they had it, but I don't blame her. Okay, I don't blame her and say you gave me COVID because I know that I was under a certain amount of stress. The situation was that I was helping out with something and I really felt like this is not good use of my time. This is wasting my time. So I was building up a lot of internal stress, but it's something that I started and I wanted to commit and follow through. Maybe I should have handed it over, but I was stressed at that point physically and mentally, emotionally. And that's why I saw that I was actually susceptible to contract COVID when I was in close proximity to it. So these are my examples, and I hope that they help you, especially if you're someone who keeps on getting sick. If you're someone who fears these bigger environmental external factors are inhibiting your healing, or you're worried that it's harming your health, but really it's out of your control, or you've tried to say something and the person or the thing won't change, or you can't afford to filter your water, etc. Or if you are on a bigger journey like a cancer experience or an autoimmune condition that you're trying to heal from, is come back and just assess the three main areas of stress. How is your physical stress? Is there any physiological stress? And most of all, and I think a lot of people have this, whether or not you do the work with it or not is a different story, is do you have emotional stress that you can work with? So, do people really make you sick? No, I don't think they do. And the responsibility is with ourselves. And if you are able to turn this around, if you are able to see your role in this, then you can move the world, literally. So, if processing your emotions is something that you're interested in, then I would love to invite you to explore the Gateway experience. This is for you if you have chronic illness, complex health conditions, you have tried it all conventional, alternative, energetic, maybe even the emotional stuff as well, and you love and you resonate with what I share, then go ahead, check it out, and you can start processing your emotions using my basic release process, emptying out your emotional cup, creating space, and deciphering the message as to why you are experiencing what you are experiencing, especially if it is that you keep on getting the common cold or the flu a little bit more frequently than what would be normal.